Hey, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Climate Reality is really excited to have Ashley Craig with us from Beyond Plastics. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and read a land acknowledgement. We start with a recognition that we are on the ancestral lands of Native peoples. This land is of great importance to them and has been since time immemorial. Consistent with our values of community and diversity, we have a responsibility to acknowledge, honor, and make visible our relationship to Native peoples. Ashley, thanks so much for being with us. Let me give a little introduction for our audience. Ashley Craig is from Beyond Plastics, and she's going to share with us how plastics harm us and our planet, why they still seem to be growing in use, and at a faster and faster pace. Also, she'll share the movements that are currently working to stop this harm and what we can do at the local level and how Beyond Plastics can help with this. Ms. Craig works to educate the public on all of the issues regarding plastics and to partner with entities, including governments and activists, to enact changes. So let's learn what we can do to be a part of creating a healthier and more sustainable future and what free resources are available to help in this endeavor. Just before I hand it over, if Miss Craig is going to be taking questions at the end of her presentation. So during the presentation, if you have questions, just put them in the chat and then we'll go over them at the end. Thanks so much. And Ashley, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Brenna, and thank you all so much for having me. I'm going to, and thank you very much for the land acknowledgement. That was lovely. I am going to give a disclaimer, which is that I am single parenting with 4 dogs right now, so there might be barking. So if there is, actually, I'm going to just say there will be barking. So I hope, I apologize. And I guess you could say that the barking is because they're really down on plastic. So they're endorsing my message. Just give me just a sec. I will share my screen with you. And we're off. All right, so, and there's Ariane has a cat in the background. I love that. I have a couple cats too. There may be one that jumps on the table during the presentation. So I graduated from Georgetown in 1987, believe it or not. You probably can't believe it, with a finance degree. And I then earned my MBA also in finance from UCLA. I've just always kind of loved business. I kind of move on to the little picture of me and one of my little dog's Pebbles. So I've always been enamored with business. I've always really enjoyed working with numbers. And I spent about 30 years in finance and audit with a number of big companies. And then I've also kind of ended up working a little bit in climate policy, and I have always really struggled with trying to figure out how can I really intersect my concern about the planet, my concern about this overproduction of plastics, with what was a very I thought a very enjoyable career in the corporate world. And so I finally realized in 2022 that I needed to leave my career. And so I became what I like to refer to as a climate quitter. I was actually also in Climate Reality down here in Los Angeles for a bit. And I think it's a phenomenal organization. So I'm really happy to be here to talk to you all. So what I focus on when I talk about plastics is really kind of these 5 key areas, which are what I call the problems with plastics. There's just too much. It's everywhere. Plastic is toxic. And then I in bold added, there's a climate crisis, as I'm sure you all know. Plastics is just adding to the climate crisis. And then there are all sorts of non-solutions. All right, so I do want to emphasize that this is a little bit of it's a downer. It's definitely a downer of a conversation. But look, if you all are engaged in the climate battle right now, this is nothing new. There aren't a whole lot of presentations that you probably hear that are, are just very uplifting, especially now. So I like to share this picture of this adorable rabbit, reminding you that we got this, because if you're starting to feel stressed or frustrated, think about this super cute rabbit. That's my advice. So first problem, there is too much plastic. There is literally just like this overproduction of plastic. Nearly 10 billion tons of plastic have been produced since the 1950s. And the plastic pollution crisis is literally one of the most serious environmental crises facing the world today. Most of the plastic that's been produced, the vast majority of the plastic, is still with us. So that very first straw you use, that very first plastic straw, that's basically still here in some form. So recycling rates are anemic at best. So it's somewhere between 6 to 9% of plastic that's actually been recycled, and we'll talk about why in a few minutes. And so, there's just, the problem is there's so much of it now, and it's very hard to get rid of, basically impossible to get rid of. And here's some more examples of how plastic is just kind of in everything. Plastic lawns, plastic toys, our furniture, our clothes. So it's just to, I'm sure you've heard of people before, maybe you've tried this where you've said, I'm going to go an entire day and not touch anything plastic. Good luck with that. And this shows the plastic production and how rapidly it's grown. So the human population has tripled since 1950, but plastic production has increased like 70-fold. So we're on track to triple plastic production again by 2060. This slide is about 6 years old, but you can see this big, just spike in how literally if you're a stats person or a numbers person, the slope of this curve is it's curving up. And why is it curving up? That's one of the things that we're going to talk about. Yep, this is just another, sorry, I'm having a little bit of a couple challenges with my presentation, but so more than half of all the plastics have been produced, have been made since the year 2000. So here's the question, why now? What is so special about now? Well, it's really supply side. It's not really a demand thing. It's kind of turning a little bit more into demand, but what's happened, especially over the last 20 years, is that businesses have seen this, especially the oil and gas industry, have seen plastics as an opportunity for growth. I'm sure if you drive an electric vehicle, or if you've stopped using gas, like I have a home that doesn't use any gas and I have solar on my roof. So if you're using fewer and fewer petroleum products in their traditional form, then that's really anxiety producing to the oil and gas industry. So they have found that plastics is a fantastic growth area for them. And so you probably know that Rob Bonta, our really fantastic Attorney General, is suing ExxonMobil right now over plastics. And the issue with plastics, and the reason that a lot of these companies are on the hot seat, or will be on the hot seat, is that they not only have thrown all this plastic in our environments, but they have also, unfortunately, lied about it and said that they're recyclable. So here is this slide, and I really need to get rid of these words over here. So ignore the words on the left because I can't see them, and I'm sure you can barely see them too. But now you go into your grocery store and there's plastic everywhere. And I am definitely old enough to remember when we didn't have that much plastic everywhere, when we didn't have plastic water bottles, I've never known of anyone that died of dehydration, at least not dehydration from not being able to, or even got really sick from not being able to have access to water on the go. But because we've sort of become conditioned to think that we have to have everything convenient and everything ready to go, that's one of the reasons that so much of our everyday items come in plastic. So this is a picture of fracking, and it's this, one of the things that's really interesting is that this gave an opportunity that the ethanol that is burned off in the gas production, in the fracked gas production, was it's a byproduct, and it was something that was simply disposed of. It was considered just a waste. Now it's being processed into ethylene, and this means that something that used to be a cost is now monetized as a revenue source for these oil and gas companies. So this gives them an opportunity to make money off of something that they previously were losing money from. And so they have jumped on that bandwagon full steam. So the next problem is that we talk about is that where is all this plastic going? There's just kind of, it's everywhere. And there kind of is nowhere for it to go. And that's really the problem. So hopefully you hear this presentation, you may, again, a lot of you, this is a very knowledgeable group. So a lot of you all may know a lot of what I'm saying. But so you may already have these situations where you have a piece of plastic and you're just like, all right, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with this, because I've learned that it's not recyclable. And so I guess I'm supposed to just throw it in the garbage. And I'm not really supposed to keep it around, especially if it's like black plastic. I'm not supposed to be using it to cook with. And yeah, it's definitely a quandary. And I think the best thing that we can all do is just be honest with ourselves and each other about the problem that we have, because otherwise there's no way to fix it if we're not honest about it. So somewhere between 8 to 15 million tons of plastic enter our oceans every year. So and I'm sure you've heard this statistic before. It's an equivalent of a garbage truck every minute backing up to the shore and dumping its contents in the ocean. Excuse me, at one point they were saying that there, at some point by the year 2030 or something, not too far away, there'd be more plastic in the oceans than fish. Apparently that is not the case. That's the sort of the people that the researchers have concluded that is not what's going to happen. But there is definitely too much plastic in the ocean. I don't have any pictures in this presentation because I'm sure you've seen them many times before of the, like fish or of birds that are around the water when you cut them open and there's, all this plastic in them. But there's just, we are definitely polluting our oceans with plastic. So the problem with plastic is that they're stable, but they're not inert. So millions of tons of bottles, bags, and other discarded materials gyrate around the Pacific. I am in Long Beach, California, and not just the Pacific, all of the oceans. As they weather, and particularly as they absorb UV rays, they release a variety of chemicals as well as measurable amounts of greenhouse gases. So that's one of the things that scientists are starting to realize, that it's not just, a problem to have them in the water because we don't want the fish to eat them. They're also contributing to the climate crisis. So it's just one thing that's really important to understand is that the breakdown of plastic is not biodegeneration. Plastic breaks up, not down. And so none of this plastic is being converted into something that organisms can ingest. And I started to say that I'm in Long Beach, California. So we're on the ocean. So we're seeing, this issue, firsthand, which I'm sure a lot of you do as well, being in Northern California. But Long Beach is also the home to Captain Charlie Moore, who is the individual who was coming back from a sailing competition, cut across a different way across the Pacific, and ran into the plastic garbage patch, I think is what they call it. So I've gotten to know Captain Charlie. He's pretty amazing. So this is just more information on like kind of how it shows you that like once you take the plastic with the chemicals and the petroleum products and they get sun and they get ocean, then before you know it, that we have microplastics. Here is a picture of a microplastic filament on a snowflake. I thought this was pretty incredible. And this is one of the most amazing slides for me in the presentation, and that is these are microplastics on the body of an insect. And the thing that is so just amazing is that this insect is not it's not like close to the ocean. It's not close to a plastic production facility. It's like in Adirondack State Park, and look at all the microplastics on this insect. My husband and I kind of have a joke whenever like he was sick this year and just couldn't kick this like upper respiratory thing he had. It was just like kind of dragging on and on. I think it went on for like 6 weeks. And so I would always say, oh, that's microplastics. So kind of whenever there's anything that we're like, that's weird, why is that happening? That's kind of our response is, oh, that's microplastics, which maybe isn't true, but I don't know. This stuff is everywhere. So it's not inert. So I don't know that it's really that great, that it's like in all of our food and all our bodies. So here's the other, again, think about that adorable bunny. This is kind of the bad news about how much microplastics are in various things. So I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted here. I'm sure very few people here are plastic, drink bottled water from plastic water bottles. So just remember to maybe remind other people in your life, if you know other folks that are big plastic water, that drink water out of plastic water bottles. Just maybe remind them that there is definitely a better way. And I don't know, I love beer, so I have a hard time believing the beer one. So I just drink from local brewers, and so I feel like that's how I address that problem. So the third problem is, as I've been mentioning along the way, plastic is toxic. Plastic is made from chemicals and fossil fuels. So it's just really important to understand that what's in the plastic is not good. It's not stuff that we necessarily want in our body. So as I mentioned kind of earlier, the fossil fuels are coal, oil, natural gas, and the plastics for the most part are made from methane, a byproduct of gas. I'm sorry. Hey. He always gets really upset at that slide. And this is another really important one to understand, that researchers have identified up to, and this is just P, I don't know why it just says P, it's supposed to be plastic. Researchers have identified over 16,000 chemicals in plastic, and about 10,000 of those are chemicals that do not have hazard data. About 26% or 4,000 are considered hazardous. Only a tiny little sliver is considered non-hazardous. Grand total of like 10% is considered, less hazardous or not hazardous. So again, this doesn't mean that you never touch another piece of plastic again. It just means understand what plastic is made from. So, and the impact is being felt. Microplastics. So what's not disputed is that microplastics are kind of everywhere, like that they're in our brains, they're in every organ of our body, they're in human testicles, they found them in placenta, they found them in breast milk, they found them kind of everywhere. The thing that is sort of up for debate, or that hasn't been definitively proven, is what all these microplastics, what all these chemicals are doing to our bodies. And it would be a really hard thing to prove. I think using like humans, because first of all, now all humans have plastic in them. So I think it's kind of hard to suss out. sorry. One study talking about plastic particles per liter in plastic water bottles. This one just really, I found this really incredible. This was very recent, sometime in the last week or two, but that they're finding that microplastics are actually hindering plant photosynthesis, which is threatening. They say that they, being the scientific community, is saying that this could actually impact our ability to make enough food for our population. So, increases the number of people that are at risk for starvation in the next 400 million people in the next 2 decades, which isn't that long. It's, kind of just right around the corner. Another thing that is really important to understand about plastics is that they are, they're chemicals not just in plastic, but they're also endocrine disrupting chemicals in other plastic-like substances. So, for example, in flame retardants. And one thing that I haven't added to my presentation, but I definitely should, is there are some there have been several pieces that have come out since all the horrible fires in Southern California about plastics and the role plastics played in the fires. And it's not that the plastics it's not that people had tons of water in plastic water bottles, and so that's what got fueled. No, the problem is our homes are full of plastic now. So, and one of the things you can do is if you're thinking about acquiring a new piece of furniture or even a sofa or anything in your home, lean towards things that are organic, like sheets, cotton, mattresses, things that are made of organic cotton that have, and now there are companies that are making things we bought a sofa that supposedly doesn't have any of these chemicals in it, and I think it's made out of hemp or something like that. Because what they found is that homes that have a lot of plastic, which is kind of all the IKEA furniture and that kind of stuff that's made out of particle board, it's the stuff itself is it contains petroleum products. So homes that have a lot more petroleum products in them, which can include even the paint, it can include the floorboards. We redid our house and we opted for floorboards that were real wood as opposed to they make it out of a petroleum product. And yeah, it was more money, but on the whole scale of the house, I think instead of it was $2,000, it was $3,000 instead of $2,000. So yeah, 50% more. That's definitely more. But when you're doing an entire home renovation on the, compared to the entire cost of the house, it's reasonable. So I know I'm spending a lot of time on this topic, but it's one that I think is really, really important. And if you all haven't seen the article, I know that I can find, there were at least one, maybe even 2 articles about the LA fires and the impact of having these homes that are, again, so full of chemicals and plastics, and not in the traditional forms. Not just plastic is my cell phone's plastic, but or my computer's plastic, but in things that you don't always expect, flooring, things like that. And how the homes burn faster, and then how the burn sites are now more contaminated. So it's going to take a lot longer to clean up. And it's also really yucky for the people who have to do the cleanup. Okay, so kind of going back to the endocrine disruptors, these exposures are impacting everybody. So they're, not just adults, but kids. And there are definitely things that are being linked to EDCs. There is quite a bit of study that's been done around this. I think Shauna, I think is her first name, Swan, Leo Trisande. There's a number of people who have done quite a bit of research. There are a number of books that talk about the research that has been done. So while I said you can't really compare a person that has had plastic exposure to one that hasn't, what you can compare when it comes to health is just in general what endocrine disrupting chemicals do to human cells. So this is I am not saying for 1 minute that autism and developmental disabilities are caused by plastics. That's not what I'm saying. I'm definitely not. And I actually have I have 3 kids, and all 3 of them are on the spectrum with different disorders. But there is definitely, we're seeing more instances of autism, and it's not just because it's being diagnosed more. There actually are more incidences. And the last time I gave this presentation a couple weeks ago, there was a pediatrician, and he said, yes, that is true. Yes, we're diagnosing it better. When, like, I was a kid, those were just the quirky kids. There wasn't, the vernacular for it. Now it's actually being diagnosed. Is there a direct link to plastics? No, there isn't, but it is something to consider. Oops. And yeah, it just shows how the prevalence has increased a lot. Okay, so here's another one of my big moments, which again, you all probably know, but if you do know, or if you don't know, my ask is, over the next week or two, share this information with a couple of people you think may not know this. My college roommate's daughter is renting the little apartment behind my house, and she had a meal delivery, a big thing of these meals delivered to her, and they all come in black plastic. I can't remember the name of the company, but I've seen their advertisements, and they show the meals, and they show how you take them out of the box, and then you could just put them in the microwave, and the whole thing, it's all easy soup to nuts, but it's all in black plastic. So they're saying microwave in black plastic. And so I said to her, I don't know if you know this, but that's really dangerous. Please don't microwave these in black plastic. And she said, oh, no, I didn't know it. So there are an amazing number of people who don't know you're supposed to microwave things in black plastic, including apparently the folks at Trader Joe's. So if I ever had enough time in my day, that would be one of the things I would want to know, is from the senior people at Trader Joe's. Why do you keep putting on your packaging to put this delicious pad thai, which is in black plastic, to put it in the microwave, and then it has all those horrible chemicals in it? So I don't know why they do that, because all you have to do is take it out of the container and dump it into glass and then put it in the microwave. So again, that's another big moment for me. Fourth issue, plastics are making our planet hotter. Just another contributor to the climate crisis. I already talked about this before. Originally, oil and gas companies said, we'll pull the oil out of the ground, we'll use it to, for cars. We stopped driving as much, we stopped using as much oil and gas for cars. And so they're like, oh, plan B, we'll use it for plastic. My background's in finance, and I know that companies are always looking for a way to grow. So plastics is a big growth area for oil and gas companies. And production is still ramping up. And this is the part that just kills me. This is the Shell chemical plant in Appalachia. It's approved to emit 2.2 million tons of carbon, 164 tons of particulate matter, 522 tons of volatile organic compounds. So the way to think about plastics is it's a climate problem from its inception to its death. I mean, there's no death, but for its entire life cycle, including the fact that it goes on forever and ever. And so this is what's really kind of important to remember, is that these companies have all of these assets. They have poured tons and tons of money into this industry, and they're still pouring more and more money into the industry. So we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the problems. But I just think this slide is kind of funny, and it kind of illustrates the fact that companies do not want to slow down the production or admit this is a problem, because then they would have to have stranded assets. They would have to admit that a lot of the assets that they have on their books are not worth what they've told investors that they're worth. Plastic is considered the new coal as far as a lot of environmentalists are concerned, including the folks at Beyond Plastic. And I'm gonna wrap up fairly quickly so that we can get to questions. Just more examples of where more plastic plants are being built. There is no slowdown as far as the petrochemical community is concerned, they're just ramping it up. And especially now that we have an administration that thinks we should bring back coal, I think, kind of all bets are off. One thing to keep in mind is that if plastic were a country, it would be the number 5 emitter of greenhouse gases. The US plastics industry is responsible for at least 232 million tons of CO2 emissions of gas emissions per year. So just it's a climate problem. It's not just it's not just a waste problem, and it's also an environmental justice problem. I don't think I'm supposed to say that anymore, but you can report me if you want. So as you can see, where do they have plastic plants? They do not have them in the bougie fancy neighborhoods. They have them in places like Louisiana's Cancer Alley, in Texas, and then these other states are also ramping up production. Yep, it's not only segregated, America is also polluted, and the pollution tends to follow the same lines of segregation. So this is the other issue. This is my issue number 5. Problem number 5 with plastic is we cannot recycle and compost our way out of the problem. This is a recycling symbol that was designed in 1970 as part of a design contest. It was never intended to be for plastic. It was intended to be used to show the recyclability of things like glass and cardboard, and aluminum, which are very recyclable. So definitely keep recycling those. And then the plastic industry borrowed this. And they're like, oh, we'll just put these things on here. And then for a while we were all like, number 5, those are recyclable. Yeah, they are for sure. And then I remember when I lived in New York, we were in the early 2000s, we're like, oh, why do our cities not take these? Why don't they take the 3s and the 4s and the 6s and the 7s? We need to get on them about that. Not appreciating that it had nothing to do with them. It had to do with the fact that it's literally physically not recyclable. So I don't know if y'all have seen John Oliver. He's so much more talented than I am, and he does this amazing piece on wish cycling. If you haven't, I urge you to Google it. He's so hilarious. And so, yeah, these are all the things that we wish cycle. We wish cycle plastic utensils and garden plastics and cardboard freezer boxes and plastic coffee cups, paper coffee cups. Paper coffee cups are not recyclable. They're lined with plastic. Plastic bags, black plastic, none of those things are recyclable. So here are those numbers again. They are a resin identification code, so that you know that the 1s and the 2s are they're the peat and the high density polyethylene, all these things that I don't ever remember what they are, but I just know that only some number 1s and number 2s are actually recyclable, but they actually are downcycled. So let me just go back to this for a minute. When I say recycled, no plastic, not 1 or 2, is ever recycled the same way an aluminum can is recycled. Aluminum rocks, with the exception of the fact that it is lined with a thin layer of plastic, because it would have to be, because otherwise the beverage or the food wouldn't be safe to consume. It is recyclable. They burn off that inside plastic and they recycle the aluminum. So that's good. So if you have to decide between aluminum or plastic, go with the aluminum. And by the way, those boxes, like boxed water and everything, they're lined with plastic too. They have to be. Think about it. If I just rolled up these papers and poured my water in it, it would run right through, because paper doesn't hold water. What happens with plastic when they try to recycle it is, because of what it's made out of, it really technically can't be recycled. So it gets downcycled. So if you see those plastic water bottles that are really super squishy, they're made out of recycled plastic. Right, they're made out of recycled plastic, so that's why they're really squishy, and you cannot recycle those again. So they're going to say they maybe have a 1 or a 2 on them, but they'll never get recycled again. So best case scenario, it gets recycled once, and then supposedly the microplastics and the chemicals are worse in the recycled plastic. So yeah, that's just the whole recycling thing is kind of a bummer. So plastic is also not suitable for compost. So that's another thing where people say, oh, well, I'll get biodegradable. No, don't get biodegradable. Sometimes plastic made out of corn, is that better than plastic made out of oil? I don't know. It still has all of the thousands of chemicals in it. So I mean, I guess it's not using oil, but just try not to use plastic. That's the number one thing, which I know is hard. But again, it's easier just to really be honest about the things that are hard in life, because otherwise we'll never be able to address them. I was on an Amtrak train once. I took an Amtrak train from New Orleans to Chicago. It was really cool. I would urge you to do that if you ever have the chance. And they were so proud to serve things. Everything was compostable. And I was just like, oh, it's really nice, but it's not actually compostable. And because here's the problem, and I will go to my notes. So please, forgive me, but I just need to make sure, because I am not an expert on compostable things that are compostable. The problem is, I mean, the main problem, the really easy one, is that, again, go back to what we said that plastic's made from. So it still has all those chemicals, and you don't want those chemicals in your garden. By the way, this is not my garden. I wish my garden looked this nice, but I do love my veggie garden. When I go source my dinner in a little bit, I'm going to pick all the lettuce and everything from my garden. So I want real, like, good compost. I don't want all the chemicals. And I volunteered at our local compost facility, and we do not allow any of these, like, biodegradable plastics. So the problem is that the BPI certification is, it doesn't actually mean that a product is safe to compost. To get BPI certified, a product needs to break down in a specialized high temperature industrial composting facility. And I'm sorry for reading this, but I want to get it right. So a facility that employs temperatures of 130 to 350 degrees. And it cannot diminish the value of or utility of the compost, which is, but all these chemicals are going in it. I really don't understand how that's happening. And it has to have a PFAS level below 100 parts per million. But the standard it's vague, it's subjective and misleading. And true compostable material is one that breaks down via biological, not industrial methods. So I would say just stay away from the compostable. So what's the actual solution? Turn off the plastic tap. So I'm going to just zip through these. But there's this thing called an extended producer responsibility. You make it, you take it. I think that's great legislation. I think we may be in a little bit of a treading water pattern for a while, kind of giving everything else that's going on. But there are things you can do personally. Just reuse. You're already doing a lot of reuse probably, but start buying your shampoo in bars, or or go find a local refill store. Just try to buy. I bought some muffins the other day, and it said that they were using less plastic. So I was like, okay, I'll support you if you're trying to use less plastic. I have we have a local coffee shop that will refill my growler of coffee. I'm kind of zip through this a little bit. So again, California is trying with the legislation. Unfortunately, SB 54 has really been watered down. But I know that you all have a lot more going on up in Northern California, so we're definitely jealous down here. We're trying, but so that's it. There's here's some of the stuff. I shouldn't probably just zip through this. Here's some of the things that Beyond Plastic does. So I'll stop sharing. Beyond Plastic is really a fantastic organization. If you don't already receive their emails, I suggest signing up for them. There are local groups. I know that there are local Beyond Plastics groups in Northern California, so you could certainly join them. But don't stress about it. There's only so much we can do. You just control your little world and just remind people, if you're going to protest, bring your water in a reusable water bottle. It tastes so much better too, right? So, anyone have questions?
Ashley, thank you for that. Your last slide on the tools that are offered on Beyond Plastics. I'm not sure if people got a chance to look at it or not, but I did put a link to Beyond Plastics, because in our group, we have a lot of people that are working in their local communities to try to see what they can do. And I think Beyond Plastics has some really great resources.
They do. Yeah, I'm sorry I zipped through that, but yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Can you tell me some of your favorite reuse hacks?
Yeah, one that a lot of people don't think about is a dry cleaner. We don't use the dry cleaner that often, but most dry cleaners a lot of dry cleaners actually have their own like garment bags that they'll like maybe sell to you for like $10 or something, and then you just use that for your thing, so you don't have to get it in the yucky plastic. So that's what a lot of people don't think about. The more just kind of the standard ones that everyone, or more traditional, or more, I guess, common. I mean, obviously, reusable coffee cups at coffee shops, and also obviously trying to find reuse stores and bringing reusable containers in. I don't know if you all have Sprouts. Do you all have Sprouts in Northern California?
I think some areas do. Yeah.
So Sprouts will let you bring your own bags, and because they have like a whole area, where a whole bulk section, and they'll let you bring your own bags to fill up stuff, which I think is great. And Oh, there was one. Oh, another one that I do is I've sort of gotten in the habit, whenever I go out to dinner, I have these like stainless steel containers. I just bring them with me, and so if we have leftovers, I don't have to get a to go container from them. So yeah, just and then they're just the standard, obviously. Just saying no to utensils and plastic bags and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's a great idea to bring your own containers, just changing our habits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you were talking about going to Sprouts and bringing your own bags. And one of the things that I see in grocery stores is there's just been an increased amount of plastic, especially with produce. And I can't figure out what the why they would add something. It seems like they're adding costs. I mean, before, just having it there loose was free. Now they're putting it in hard plastic containers. Do you know why they're doing that?
Yeah, so that's mostly part of this like supply side push. It's just that the people in the packaging industry who they are incentivized to just sell more plastic. So they're I guess they somehow have convinced that the folks at grocery stores that they can sell more if it's in plastic. I don't know. But it's not just a US thing. My daughter went to school for a semester in Denmark, and I went over to visit her. And I went by a grocery store, and every single pepper, they had this beautiful array of peppers with all colors. Every one of them was individually wrapped in plastic.
So
I
it's
was
not
just like
US.
stunned. Like, how is this necessary? That's the beautiful thing about pepper. It comes in its own skin. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it really is a supply thing. They just want us to think that we need plastic for everything.
Diane, did you have a question?
Well, I was thinking to myself, um, it'd be great if we could affect the demand, and then I was thinking, well, maybe starting with education and schools, where the younger you affect the consumers, that maybe they won't reach for those things. But then, as you were talking, I was thinking, oh no, it's being pushed, it's everywhere. So I don't know how much our demand, and starting with youngsters and education, can stem this production.
I think that it's like so many things, that have sort of, just with the climate crisis in general. I think if you focus on too much on like, how can I really make a difference? You'll make yourself crazy, or at least I was making myself crazy. And this is something I've been in and out of for I've been engaged at different levels for, I don't know, probably like 30 years. And um, despite me putting sometimes putting 100% of my time, like there were times when I wasn't working, and this was 100% of what I put my time into, or when I worked at an environmental nonprofit, it's what I put all my professional effort into. Despite all of that, yeah, the climate crisis has definitely gotten worse. There are areas where things have gotten a little bit better, and that's like with the renewable energy. Like, I mean, look at like solar is cheaper than it's like the cheapest form of energy pretty much. And depending on where you are, what market you're in. And that's huge. Like when I was working in environmental policy, my focus was on renewables. And I mean, solar and wind were not, I mean, I was lobbying in Washington for them to continue with the subsidies. We had to have pretty big subsidies to get solar and wind going. And I think there's like they're very few now. And they're certainly not necessary. So I think that if you focus just too much on like, okay, well, this is just going to have a little impact, so I'm not going to do it, then you'll A, lose hope, and B, really nothing will work, nothing, we won't make any progress. So I think it's really is just like so many things that we're kind of seeing right now is it has to come from the grassroots. And you have to just, have a sense of humor about it and be willing to do your little part and be willing to just, also influence your environment. So, if you go to gatherings like we have a neighborhood association, and our neighborhood association is now like fully into the reuse thing. So like we have these garbage cleanups like once a quarter in our neighborhood, and now on the invitation it says bring your reusable mug for coffee, because I went to the first one, I was like, oh, this is great that you're picking up all this garbage, but you are creating more garbage with these coffee cups. Or beach cleanups. I went to a beach cleanup once and this guy had plastic water bottles. I'm not kidding. He was giving people water in disposable water, plastic water bottles at a beach cleanup. I'm like, this is super ironic. So I think it's just reminding people, and it's just, you can kind of, just small. One other, this is actually my favorite reuse hack. Go to the movies. People don't go to the movies enough. I don't go to the movies enough. It's actually really fun. When you do go to the movies, you're like, oh, I should maybe do this more often. And bring your own reusable cup, because most of this, especially if you bring like a stainless steel one, and if you like beer like I do, you can get a draft beer in a stainless steel cup. And that is by far the best way to drink a beer, because that stainless steel keeps it so crisp and cold. And it's a wonderful way to enjoy a beverage. Beer, or if you're a wine drinker, same thing. It keeps it really nice and cold. And they'll let you do that in, at least in our theaters, like in our AMC. So that's one of my favorite ones. You can have your adult beverage and not have to get a, plastic cup. So just, doing little things like that, I think it makes a difference.
I made it a New Year's resolution a few years ago to give up, to try to lower my use of plastic. And so every once a month, I had to think of something new to find a replacement for. That made it a little more bite-sized for me, because when you start seeing it, it's just everywhere and it's so unnecessary. Let's see, do we have any other questions? I don't want to miss anyone.
One thing too, I will say is, actually, if we were in a different like political environment, I would say that the number one thing you should be doing is legislation. And if you do want to focus on legislation, California has good legislation, and and we do the plastic. There's a plastic bag ban that's supposed to go into effect, or that will go into effect in January of 2026. So grocery stores will not be able to offer. It's actually a really good bill, and you really can't have any plastic grocery bags at all in grocery stores. They're supposed to have done that with the produce bags, but I think all they did is swap them out for compostable, which, as we discussed, are not really compostable. So, but the way the legislation is written for this ban that goes into effect January 2026 is it really does have teeth, and it really is it should make a big difference. So keep your eyes open for that. The other thing that you can do too is, I don't know if any of you do any work with Climate Action California, but I used to volunteer with them. The only reason I don't is because there aren't enough hours in the day. But they do fantastic work. So you could go, kind of sign up to get their updates and be engaged with them. There's also several other statewide organizations. The Story of Stuff, I think, does a good job. Also, Californians Against Waste is another really good one. They do really good work. And so I think keeping apprised of what is happening at the state level, nothing is going to happen at the federal level, but we do have we have a right to repair law in California. So anything that you buy in California that's $100 or more, including a laptop, a phone, pretty much anything $100 or more that has like components, it's not just electrical things. The manufacturer has to provide parts and repair manuals for, I think it's 7 years. So if you have something and it breaks, don't just throw it away. Reach out to the manufacturer, find out, how you can get repair manuals. So it's that's really powerful, because a lot of plastics go into a lot of the, electronics and stuff now, or just like vacuums and things like that.
I put I wasn't able to look up everything fast enough, but you mentioned Californians Against Waste. I put that in the chat. And then hopefully we're recording this meeting and we're going to put it on our YouTube channel. So if any of these resources sounded interesting and I didn't get them in here, you can go back and find them. Lucinda, you have a question?
I actually had kind of a comment. I know Ashley was talking a lot about California organizations, and I agree, we're really at a standstill or moving backwards at the federal level. But in addition, I have seen a lot of really great stuff happening at the local level. I live in the small town of Albany, and I'm part of a small climate action group, and we got a sustainable foodware ordinance passed about 6 months ago, which requires reusables for all dine-in, and we do have had quite a few restaurants that were using disposables even for dine-in. And anyway, so I just think there's a lot of opportunity at the local level as well.
Agreed.
So thanks.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And when you can't get things done, at the federal level, the national level, or even at the state level, focus on the local level. Kevin asked in the chat, is the idea to avoid plastic in all things? For example, I feed my dog using a plastic dog dish. I would say when it's time to replace the dog's dog dish, buy a metal one. I just try to we need a new dustpan. So I'm going to make sure that I go to our old-fashioned hardware store and see if I can find a metal one. And sometimes it makes things a little bit more fun. I don't know. Just you can be like, wait a second, I don't really want to buy that. That's made out of plastic. Can I, find something? And there are a lot of things that you can find that are made out of metal instead of plastic. There was one other thing that I just thought of that I can't remember now, but anyhow, hopefully I did pop. Oh, so I found the Atlantic article. I put that in the chat. That's the one on the LA fires and how all the plastics made things worse. And then Climate Action California I put in the chat also. Another book that's a really interesting book is called Fire Weather. So if you have not read Fire Weather, I highly recommend it. It's a very interesting book. It kind of it's nonfiction, but it's a bit of a page turner, believe it or not.
Okay, so the book is called Fire Weather.
Fire Weather. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And just Lucinda, to your point about congratulations on Albany's ordinance, that's awesome. Beyond Plastics has a temple ordinance. So if any of you are not living in Albany and you don't have a foodware ordinance yet, they have a template that you can get started on. It's pretty cool. We are getting close to the end. I'm going to do one more check just to see if there's any questions. Okay. Looks like we've got everything answered. So Ashley, thanks so much for being with us tonight. Just a reminder, this will be recorded and on YouTube, so you can share it with your friends and let people know about trying to get plastics out of our world.
I will toss in one other resource, Upstream. Upstream Solutions is a great nonprofit. I'm a little biased because I'm on the board, but great nonprofit that focuses on reuse. So yeah.
Okay, Upstream Solutions. I don't know the website, but I put the title in there, so I'm sure we can find it by Googling it.
Yes, I can email it to you too. Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you so much, Brenna.
Thank you.